Amazon, if you're watching this, I need you to do something about the Kindle lineup. You have a vibrant community of bookworms, myself included, who love reading on their Kindle, but it's starting to feel like you don't care about us. It's starting to feel like the Kindle is no longer a priority for Amazon. After a disappointing year in 2023 with no new Kindle announcements, I made the decision to explore what other e-readers are out there in the book tech space. And in today's video, I want to show you a device that is on the cutting edge of technology for e-readers, and this device is not a Kindle, but it's capable of reading all your Kindle books and so much more. Now the device I'm referring to is the Tab Mini C made by Onyx Books. Now this thing is not perfect by any means. I have a lot of issues with it that I'll be talking about in today's video, but in a nutshell, think of it as a Kindle Oasis with a larger screen, the pen of a Kindle Scribe, as well as a color display. Now clearly with a device that can do all these different things, there's so many different use cases for it, but I want to give you a disclaimer up front. My main use case is for reading, so this whole video is very biased towards that. That's the main purpose that I use my e-readers for, so I'll be talking mostly about the features relating to reading. Now let's begin with the basics. The Tab Mini C has a starting price of $399. Now they do offer a version of this without the stylus, which brings the price down to $349, but as I'll talk about later in the video, I definitely suggest getting the stylus. Now in terms of the display, we have a 7.8-inch screen, which is 1 inch larger than the Kindle Paperwhite and the Kindle Oasis, so just a little bit bigger. It also has 300 ppi resolution, but this thing actually has two resolutions. It also has a 150 ppi resolution for the color display. Yes, you heard that correctly. This e-reader has a full color display. This technology is still really new. I'll be showing you more about that in a little bit, but it has two different resolutions, one for black and white and one for color. The color one is not as crispy, but it's still there. Now, as you would expect, this device also has adjustable lighting as well as warm light, which is very helpful for reading at night. We'll talk more about that in a second as well. And the device also has an octa-core processor with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of internal memory. Now what makes the Tab Mini C so unique is it's running an Android operating system. When you buy a Kindle, you're locked into the Kindle software. It's not like you can download apps or anything like that, but on the Tab Mini C, you have full access to the Google Play Store. With Android e-readers like this one, you have to be very intentional about which apps you download. It can get very distracting very quickly, especially if you get social media on your e-reader, which will definitely take you away from reading. But the other benefit of having an Android operating system is you can download multiple reading apps. So for example, I have the Kindle app downloaded on this device. Even though it's not a Kindle, I have full access to every single Kindle book that I've purchased through Amazon. But if you really wanted, you can download other apps like the Barnes & Noble app, or you could also download the Kobo app, whichever software that you've used before. You can have all these apps side by side. The other one that I use personally is the Readwise Reader app. Now, even though I'm not sponsored by Readwise, they did collaborate with me on this video. They sent me this device to test their app on to see how it performs. They have an incredible app, which I've made a whole video about in the past. I intend to make more in the future, but in my opinion, it's one of the best apps available in the book tech space right now. On the Tab Mini C specifically, I want to show you a few features that really stood out to me. The first one is something called text-to-speech. If you upload an EPUB file to your reader app and open it up on your Tab Mini C, you can go into the settings and activate text-to-speech, which essentially gives you a free audiobook version of the EPUB. Now, normally these virtual voice assistants don't sound very compelling. They sound a bit robotic, but Reader recently updated their text-to-speech feature to use something called the Unreal Engine. I don't know too much about the technical stuff here, but I just know it sounds really good, almost like a real human. The Tab Mini C has built-in speakers, so you can just listen to the audiobook basically directly on the device without any headphones if you really want. It also highlights the words as you read through the audiobook version over here. It's a really nice feature. It's basically like immersion reading on the Kindle. Another great feature in the Reader app that you can take full advantage of in the Tab Mini C is the voice notes option. When you highlight something, want to take a note, usually you have to type it out with the keyboard, which is really annoying on e-ink, but on the Tab Mini C, you have a built-in microphone, so you can just press the microphone button on the keyboard and then speak out your note, and it'll automatically transcribe it for you. And one last feature I want to mention in the Reader app that literally just came out last week as of making this video is the new paging format. Instead of reading in a continuous scroll on the Reader app, your EPUBs can now be divided up into regular pages, just like the Kindle app, which makes reading on this so much more pleasant. Now, before telling you about my love-hate relationship with the color screen on this Tab Mini C, I just have to say, all this technology is really cool, but none of it actually matters. What does matter is having a reading habit and actually reading some books. Something that really helped me read more was having some added accountability, and I actually started my own book club called Presently Reading. Every single month, I choose a new nonfiction book to read and read it alongside a community of over 1,000 bookworms from around the world. The book club is completely free to join. It's a very wholesome time. Every week, I'll send you a quick little update on the book that we're reading. Link down below if you're interested in joining. Now, I've got to say the color display on this device was something I was really looking forward to, and it was a very magical experience unboxing it and turning on the screen for the first time, opening up a book, highlighting stuff, seeing color on an e-reader is not something I'm used to after using a Kindle for so many years now. Having a color e-ink screen is just a whole new experience. My favorite uses of the color screen is when I'm highlighting, especially just having that nice yellow highlight like a real pen and paper. It looks really cool. Also in the Kindle app, you can change the highlight color between blue, red, orange, and just having these multiple options looks so nice while reading a book. In the Reader app, there's even more use cases for the color e-ink. I love subscribing to newsletters in the Reader app, so when I open those up on the Tab Mini C, I see them in full color, which is so nice and so refreshing because using it is so much easier on my eyes than my phone. Now, unfortunately, putting those nice feelings aside, the actual functionality of the color screen, in my opinion, for reading is just not worth it. Let me explain to you my annoyances with the color e-ink. The first and most frustrating part for me is the touchscreen does not work as reliably as my Kindle or other e-readers. And I've never had this problem before, and it's really hard to describe. I had a hard time capturing it on camera, but basically when I touch the screen sometimes, it just doesn't work. And I have to touch multiple times or it does the wrong thing. I don't know if this is because of the color e-ink or because the device has some other issue with it, but it just does not work reliably. If you use the stylus instead, it works a lot better. The stylus makes using the touchscreen a lot more reliable, but I don't want to always use a pen when reading a book. It's quite annoying having to rely on that so much, but at least it works better with that. The second annoyance I have is getting the brightness correct on this device while I'm reading a book. For some reason, just getting it exactly right is never the easiest thing. I've never had this problem before on my Kindle, but on this device, I always have to adjust it. Especially if you turn off the brightness completely, you're left with a very dark screen, and that is because the color e-ink technology requires an extra layer, an extra filter on top of the glass for the color, and that does significantly lower the brightness of the screen. Along the same lines, I'm always adjusting the warm light as well, and because it's a color screen, the colors kind of change a little bit if you're using the warm light, so you have to be very careful of how much of brightness and warm light you're using. It's a big game, and I don't like having to adjust it so much. One thing I will say though, it's really nice having the adjustable front light and warm light toggles as shortcuts on the left and right side of the screen. Adjusting them is very quick and very easy. I don't have to go to the settings or anything like that. They're always available for me right on the book just by swiping on the left or right side. The next and probably most annoying thing about the Tab Mini C is having to fiddle with all these different display settings and modes. Look, I'm a really simple kind of guy. I just want to read a book without having to get distracted by adjusting a setting here and there. And this is the exact opposite of that for me. My experience of this thing has been a constant adjustment every single time I use this device. When you're using the Tab Mini C, there's something called the e-ink center where you can go in and adjust the display settings, and they have 4 or 5 different modes you can choose from to adjust the speed of the screen. When you're reading a book, you're going to want to use the HD setting because it makes the screen look as crispy as possible, but the downside to this is you're going to be seeing a lot more page refreshes to maintain that crispiness. I find that the next setting, the balance mode, works pretty well. You can have that same crispiness to a little lesser extent while still having some flexibility without having so much refreshing happening all the time. There are 2 other modes called fast and ultra fast, which work really well when you're scrolling through articles or scrolling around the UI. And I have to say, I'm actually really impressed with how responsive this software is. I wish my Kindle could respond like this once in a while too. The downside is you have to use the correct setting in the correct moment when you're using the device, otherwise you're not going to see that same crispy HD quality that you want. It's not feasible to use this device in HD mode all the time. Even in the Kindle app or the Reader app, I'm always going back and forth between different modes because I have to go to a different book or scroll around a little bit, and I can't do that in HD mode. The good thing is the software will remember which mode you were last in the app that you're in. So if you are always in HD mode, for example, in the Kindle app, it will remember that and you don't have to go back and change it. But again, like I said, I'm always changing it because I'm doing different things. These different modes will also affect the way your highlights will look, which I found to be very bizarre. For example, I do my morning prayers on this device and I was seeing my highlights look very contrasty and very unlegible. I don't know what was going on, but I quickly realized the mode was impacting these highlights. If you go online and search for reviews of the Tab Mini C, you're going to see people mostly recommending it. And for the most part, I have to agree that the e-ink technology on this device is very advanced for all the other e-readers out there right now. It's a very cool device to have. However, with that being said, if your focus is strictly on reading books and you want to have a very straightforward experience, then I do not think this device is for you. There's a whole other set of features that you can use this device for. For example, I barely even touched the notebook where you can take handwritten notes with its stylus. And again, if that is a cool feature that you want to use, this might be a great device for that. Or if color is a really must-have feature for you, then this device might be great for that. But I think this is more of a productivity device than a reading device. My barometer when testing new e-readers is seeing how much I miss using my Kindle, and I have to say this device was probably the most I've missed my Kindle in a long time. I just had to fiddle so much with different settings and getting things right, and again, I think some people really like that, getting their settings optimized and really enjoying the different customized options that you have available to you. But for me, all I care about is reading my books, and I had a really hard time doing that with this. I'm perfectly happy giving up some of that advanced technology for a simpler, more minimalist solution like a Kindle or other e-readers that don't have color e-ink. Maybe one day in the future I'll come back to this. We'll have to see. Now, say the idea of having an Android e-reader sounds appealing to you, but you don't want to deal with the color e-ink technology right now. Something I would recommend checking out is my other review of the Palma, which is also made by Onyx Books. That might be a great alternative to this. Link for that video on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.